Ever wondered what it feels like to have instant, on-demand power at your fingertips? No turbo lag, no waiting for boost to build, just pure, immediate thrust the second you touch the throttle. That's the magic of superchargers. While everyone's obsessed with turbos these days, there's something special about the whine of a blower spooling up. The good news? You don't need to spend six figures on a new Hellcat or Corvette to experience it. Today, we're counting down 10 factory supercharged engines you can actually find in junkyards, on Craigslist, or sitting in that project car you've been eyeing. Some of these might surprise you, so buckle up, hit that like button to help the channel, and let's dive into the world of affordable forced induction. Number 10, Toyota 4 AGZE 1.6-liter DOHC. Let's kick things off with a piece of 1980s engineering that most people have completely forgotten about. The Toyota 4 AGZE. This thing is a unicorn. Back when everyone else was slapping turbos on everything that moved, Toyota went the supercharger route. And they didn't half-ass it either. This little 1.6-liter four-cylinder came with forged internals straight from the factory, forged pistons, forged connecting rods, lower compression at 8.0:1. Toyota basically built this thing to handle boost from day one. You'll find these engines in the first-generation MR2 Supercharged from 1988 to 1989 and in the AE92 Corolla 11 in Japan. The supercharger itself is a Roots-type SC12 unit that Toyota co-developed with, wait for it, Ogura Clutch Company. Yeah, a clutch company helped design this supercharger. It's tiny, about the size of a large alternator, but it gets the job done. Stock output was around 145 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much today. But remember, this was the 80s. A regular Corolla made 90 horsepower. This thing was a rocket ship by comparison. Here's where it gets interesting. The aftermarket has kept these engines alive for decades. You can still buy rebuild kits for the supercharger. You can port the blower housing. You can upgrade to a smaller pulley. Some guys are making over 200 horsepower, naturally aspirated from the 4AG head design. So imagine what happens when you combine that knowledge with boost. The SC12 supercharger spins at up to 1.2 times engine speed, creating about 8 psi of boost stock. But here's the kicker. These engines are getting rare, really rare. Finding one means scouring Japanese import yards or getting lucky with an old MR2 that hasn't been parted out yet. When you do find one, expect to pay anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 depending on condition. Not cheap for a 35-year-old four-cylinder, but you're buying a piece of Toyota's forced induction history. Plus, the sound these things make, it's like a tiny banshee under your hood. Number 9, Jaguar AJ126 3.0-liter V6 Supercharged. Now we're getting into luxury territory, but don't let that scare you off. The Jaguar AJ126 Supercharged V6 is one of the best-kept secrets in the forced induction world. This all-aluminum beauty features a Roots-type twin-vortex supercharger that sits neatly in the valley of the V6. We're talking 340 to 380 horsepower, depending on the tune, from just 3 liters. That's Ferrari territory from the 1990s. You'll find these engines in the F-Type 5, 6 models from 2014 onwards, the XF and XES models, and even some Range Rover Evokes. The beauty of this engine is that it's incredibly smooth. Jaguar spent serious money making sure the supercharger was properly isolated and balanced. There's no vibration, no harsh mechanical noise, just a subtle whine that builds with RPM. It's sophisticated in a way that American supercharged engines just aren't. But here's the real secret. These engines are hitting salvage yards right now. Why? Because Jaguar reliability stereotypes mean these cars depreciate like stones. A fender bender on a 5-year-old F-Type? Insurance totals it? That means complete, low-mileage engines are available for $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes less. The supercharger itself is a 6th-generation Eaton unit, which means parts and knowledge are everywhere. Pulley swaps are easy. Tunes are readily available. Some tuners are pushing 450 horsepower with just software changes. No hardware modifications at all. The weak point? The cooling system. These engines run hot, and the supercharger adds heat. If you're planning to use one for a project, budget for an upgraded radiator and maybe an auxiliary cooler for the supercharger. Also, the direct injection system can be finicky if you don't use quality fuel. Carbon buildup on the intake valves is a real thing, but solve those issues and you've got a world-class engine for Honda money. The sound at full throttle is absolutely intoxicating, a mix of mechanical whine and V6 snarl that's uniquely British. It's like having a baby Aston Martin engine that you can actually afford to maintain. Number 8. Mini Cooper S 1.6-liter R53. Okay, hear me out on this one. The supercharged Mini from 2002 to 2006 might be the most entertaining four-cylinder engine you used. BMW and Chrysler co-developed this thing, which should tell you it's either brilliant or insane. Turns out it's both. The engine itself is a variation of the Chrysler-BMW Tritec design, but Mini added an Eaton M45 Roots-type supercharger that sits right on top of the engine, driven by the crank pulley through the shortest belt you've ever seen. Stock power was 163 horsepower in the standard Cooper S or 170 in the JCW version, but those numbers don't tell the whole story. This engine is all about the mid-range. Peak torque comes at 4,000 RPM, but you get 90% of it from 2,000 RPM. It's like having a tiny electric motor. The throttle response is instant. No lag. No delay. Just immediate forward thrust that pins you to the seat. The aftermarket went absolutely crazy for these engines. A 15% pulley reduction takes you to 200 horsepower. Port the supercharger, add a cold air intake, and you're looking at 220. Some lunatics are running 250 horsepower on stock internals. The engine can take it because BMW overbuilt everything. Forged crank, sodium-filled exhaust valves, oil squirters for the pistons. It's like they knew people would modify these things. Finding one is easier than you think. First-gen Cooper S models are all over Craigslist with blown clutches or failed power steering pumps. Complete engines go for $800 to $1,500. The supercharger alone sells for $500 if it's in good shape. The whine these things make is addictive. It's high-pitched and angry, like a pissed-off bee the size of a house cat. At full throttle, it sounds like a tiny Group B rally car. Plus, the whole package is small enough to fit in almost anything. People have swapped these into classic Minis, Fiat 500s, even motorcycles. Yes, motorcycles. The only real weakness is the timing chain tensioner, which likes to fail around 80,000 miles. Budget $500 to replace it preventatively, and you're golden. Number 7. Pontiac 3.8-liter L67 and L32 Series 2 and 3 V6. General Motors 3.8-liter supercharged V6 might be the best bang-for-your-buck forced induction engine in existence. Seriously, these things are everywhere, they're cheap, and they're practically indestructible. We're talking about the L67 and L32 engines found in the Pontiac Grand Prix GTP, Bonneville SSEI, Buick Regal GS, Park Avenue Ultra, Chevy Impala SS, and Monte Carlo SS. From 1997 to 2007, GM stuffed these engines into everything they could. The Series 2 made 240 horsepower. The Series 3 bumped it to 260. But those are just starting points. The Eaton M90 supercharger sits on top of the lower intake manifold, and it's begging to be modified. A 3.4-inch pulley drops your 0 to 60 by half a second. Add cold air intake and a tune, and you're at 300 horsepower. Some guys are pushing 400 with ported heads and a cam on a pushrod V6 from the 90s. The beauty of these engines is their simplicity. It's old-school GM engineering with a blower on top. cast iron block, forged crank, hyper-eutectic pistons that can handle way more boost than they should. The transmission behind it is usually the weak link, not the engine. These things regularly go 300,000 miles with just oil changes. The supercharger needs a rebuild around 150,000 miles, but that's a $200 job you can do in your garage. You can buy a complete running engine for $300 to $600. Not a typo. $300 for a factory supercharged V6. Junkyards are full of them because nobody knows what they're looking at. That grocery getter Buick Park Avenue, it's hiding 240 horsepower under the hood. The best part is the community. These engines have been around so long that every possible modification has been documented. Want to run E85? There's a guide. Want to swap to a smaller pulley? There's a calculator for that. Want to put one in a Fiero? Someone's already done it and posted a build thread. The only downside is the sound. It's not exactly exotic. It sounds like, well, a supercharged Buick. But who cares when you're gapping cars that cost 5 times as much? Number 6. Mercedes-AMG M113K 5.4-liter V8. Mercedes M113K is what happens when German engineers decide to go completely mental. This 5.4-liter V8 came with a twin-screw supercharger that makes it one of the most underrated performance engines ever built. You'll find it in the E55 AMG, SL55 AMG, CLS55 AMG, C55 AMG, S55 AMG, and a few others from 2003 to 2011. Every single one made at least 469 horsepower. Some made over 500. The supercharger is a twin-screw unit from IHI, and it's massive. It sits in the valley of the engine like a giant aluminum tumor, but it works. Oh boy, does it work. Peak torque is 516 pound-feet at just 2,650 RPM. It's like driving around with a diesel truck engine that revs to 7,000. The power delivery is so smooth and linear that it feels naturally aspirated until you look down and realize you're doing triple digits. Here's the insane part. These engines are bulletproof. The internals are forged everything. The block is so overbuilt it can handle 1,000 horsepower. The cooling system is designed for Autobahn speeds in summer heat. The oil system has every fail-safe Mercedes could think of. These engines were designed to run flat out all day long and then do it again tomorrow. And they do. The aftermarket has figured out that a simple ECU tune and pulley swap gets you 600 horsepower. Add headers, and you're at 650. Long tube headers, bigger throttle body, and a built transmission, 800 horsepower on a stock bottom end. The record is something like 1,300 horsepower on stock internals before something finally breaks. Usually it's a connecting rod, and even then, it takes serious abuse. You can find complete engines for $3,000 to $5,000. Sometimes, less if you're patient. The cars themselves are worth more in parts than whole, so breakers are always parting them out. The SL55 AMG is the best donor because it had extra cooling and the strongest transmission. The sound is intoxicating, a deep V8 rumble overlaid with supercharger whine. At full throttle, it sounds like Thor's hammer hitting an anvil. The only real issues are the supercharger intercooler pump, which fails every 60,000 miles like clockwork, and the engine mounts, which can't handle the torque. Budget $1,000 for preventive maintenance, and you've got a German muscle car engine that'll embarrass modern supercars. Number 5. Jaguar and Land Rover 5.0-liter AJ133 V8. The AJ133 is what happened when Jaguar decided to stuff a supercharger on their already excellent 5-liter V8. The result? One of the best-sounding engines ever made. Period. This all-aluminum masterpiece came in various states of tune from 380 horsepower all the way up to 575 in the SVR models. You'll find them in F-Type Rs, XFRs, XJRs, XKRs, Range Rover Sports, and even some Range Rovers. The Supercharger is an Eaton twin vortex system, Jaguar's fancy name for the TVS blower. It's a Roots-type positive displacement unit, but with twisted four-lobe rotors that are way more efficient than old-school straight rotors. The result is boost that builds instantly but doesn't heat the intake charge as much. Jaguar also added 2 water-to-air intercoolers to keep things cool. Smart. What makes this engine special is the character. It's smooth and refined at low RPM, almost silent. But mat the throttle, and it transforms into an absolute animal. The Supercharger whine builds to a scream. The exhaust note goes from purr to roar. It's Jekyll and Hyde in the best possible way. And the power delivery, it's relentless. From 2,000 to 7,000 RPM, it just pulls and pulls and pulls. The tuning potential is massive. A simple software flash adds 50 to 70 horsepower. Pulley reduction gets you another 30, full exhaust and tune. 650 horsepower easy. Some tuners are pushing 750 on stock internals. The limiting factor is usually the transmission, not the engine. These ZF8 speeds are tough, but they have limits. Finding one of these engines is getting easier as the cars age. Early F-types are hitting salvage auctions. First-gen Range Rover Sports with the supercharged engine are worth more as parts than runners. Complete engines go for $4,000 to $7,000 depending on mileage and spec. The 510 horsepower version from the F-Type R is the one to get. It has stronger internals and better cooling. The sound alone is worth the price of admission. At full throttle, it's absolutely biblical. The combination of supercharger whine and V8 roar is intoxicating. It's the sound of barely controlled violence. The main issues are timing chain tensioners, which like to stretch around 80,000 miles, and the water pump, which is plastic and lives in the valley of the engine. Budget $2,000 for preventive maintenance. But when you fire it up and hear that supercharger spool, you'll forget all about the maintenance costs. This is an engine with genuine character, something that's increasingly rare in modern motors. Number 4. Ford 5.4-liter supercharged modular V8. Ford's 5.4-liter supercharged modular V8 is the sledgehammer of this list. No subtlety, no refinement, just raw, unfiltered American power. This iron block monster powered the 2007 to 2012 Shelby GT500, 2013 to 2014 GT500, and the 2005 to 2006 Ford GT. Yes, the Ford GT supercar used basically the same engine as a Mustang. Wild. The early GT500s made 500 horsepower. The later ones made 550. The GT500 Super Snake made 600 plus. But those are rookie numbers. This engine's party trick is how much abuse it can take. The iron block can handle stupid amounts of boost. We're talking 30 pounds plus. The forged crank laughs at 1,000 horsepower builds. The only weak points are the rods and pistons, and even those can take 750 horsepower reliably. The supercharger varies by year. Early cars got an Eaton M122. Later cars got the more efficient TVS 2300. The Ford GT got a Lysholm twin-screw unit. All of them can be swapped around with some creativity. The aftermarket has gone completely insane with these engines. 2.3-liter Whipple blowers, 3.8-liter Kenny Bells. Some lunatics are running 4.0-liter blowers that are bigger than the engine's displacement. 800 horsepower is considered mild. 1,000 is common. 1,500 is doable. 2,000 plus? Yeah, that happens too. Finding one is surprisingly easy. GT500s get wrecked all the time because Mustang drivers gonna Mustang. Complete engines go for 3,000 to 5,000. Sometimes you can find a whole wrecked car for 6,000 and part it out. The GT engines command more money, but they're essentially the same thing with different heads and intake. The sound is pure violence. It's not refined or sophisticated. It's just loud. The supercharger screams. The exhaust bellows. It's the automotive equivalent of a heavy metal concert. These engines are simple to work on. It's just an overhead cam V8 with a blower on top. No variable valve timing, no direct injection, no complicated electronics. You can tune it with a handheld programmer in your driveway. Parts are everywhere and cheap. You can build a 1,000-horsepower engine for less than $10,000. Try that with anything European. The main issues are heat and head gaskets. These engines run hot, and the factory cooling system is marginal. Upgrade the radiator, add a heat exchanger for the supercharger, and install head studs while you're at it. Do that, and you've got an engine that'll make 4-digit horsepower all day long. It might not be sophisticated, but when you're launching hard enough to change the Earth's rotation, who cares? Number 3, Cadillac LSA 6.2-liter V8. The LSA is the thinking man's supercharged LS engine. It powered the second-gen CTS-V from 2009 to 2014, the Camaro ZL1 from 2012 to 2015, and a handful of HSV products in Australia. 556 horsepower from the factory. But that's just where the fun begins. This engine is basically an LS3 with forged internals and a 1.9-liter Eaton TVS supercharger on top. It's simpler than the newer LT4. No direct injection, no variable valve timing, no cylinder deactivation, just a good old pushrod V8 with a blower. And that simplicity is its strength. Everything you learned about LS engines applies here. Every part that fits an LS3 bolts right up. The aftermarket is absolutely massive. A lid, pulley, and tune gets you 650 horsepower. Headers push it to 700. Cam swap? 750 easy. The stock blower is good for about 800 horsepower before it runs out of breath. Swap to a 2.3 Magnuson or 2.9 Whipple and the sky's the limit. Guys are making over 1,000 horsepower on stock bottom ends. The pistons and rods are that strong. The beauty of the LSA is availability. CTS-Vs are getting crashed and parted out daily. Complete engines with accessories go for $4,000 to $6,000, sometimes less. The ZL1 engines command a bit more, but they're identical except for the cam. You can even find crate engines from GM Performance for around $10,000, brand new with a warranty. That's insane value. The engine is physically smaller than you'd expect. It'll fit in almost anything. People swap these into everything from C10 trucks to Mazda RX-7s. The wiring is simple. The computers are unlocked. You can literally download a bass tune from the internet and drive away. It's that easy. The sound is classic American V8 with supercharger whine on top. It's not as aggressive as the Hellcat, not as refined as the Jaguar. It's right in the middle. Perfect for a daily driver that can also run 10s at the drag strip. The main weakness is the blower bearing. They like to fail around 80,000 miles. Budget $1,500 for a rebuild. The lid design is also restrictive. A ported lid or aftermarket unit is good for 20 horsepower. But these are minor issues. This is one of the best performance engines ever built, period. It's reliable, powerful, and has an aftermarket that rivals the small block Chevy. If you're building a project car and want easy, reliable horsepower, this is your answer. Number 2, Chevrolet LT46 2-liter V8. The LT4 is GM's current supercharged masterpiece. 650 horsepower from the factory in everything from the Corvette Z06 to the Camaro ZL1 to the Cadillac CTS-V. This is cutting-edge American performance, and somehow you can already buy them used. This engine is a technical tour de force. Direct injection and port injection, variable valve timing, cylinder deactivation, titanium connecting rods, forged aluminum pistons, a 1.7-liter Eaton R1740 TVS supercharger that spins up to 20,000 RPM. It's the most advanced pushrod engine ever built, and it makes power everywhere. Peak torque of 650 pound-feet arrives at 3,600 RPM and stays flat until 5,000. It's like having instant teleportation at your right foot. The factory calibration is conservative, very conservative. A tune alone adds 50 horsepower. Smaller pulley, tune, and headers? 750 easy, 800 is common, 900 with a cam. The record on a stock bottom end is something like 1100 horsepower. The titanium rods and forged pistons can take absolutely stupid amounts of power. GM built this thing to handle whatever you throw at it. Finding one requires patience. These engines are still new enough that crashed cars get repaired, not parted out. But they're out there. Wrecked Corvettes from track days, stolen and recovered Camaros. Complete engines go for $8,000 to $12,000. Not cheap, but you're getting 650 horsepower out of the box with a warranty if you buy a crate engine from GM. The LT4 fits anywhere, and LS fits. The supercharger adds height, but it's manageable. The direct injection system adds complexity, but the benefits are worth it. Better fuel economy, lower emissions, more power, the ability to run 11-to-1 compression with a supercharger. That's black magic. The sound is more refined than older supercharged GMs. The blower is quieter, the exhaust is more controlled. But mat the throttle, and it still sounds like the end of the world. The main issue is complexity. This isn't a simple engine. The direct injection system needs special tools and knowledge. The variable valve timing adds failure points. The cylinder deactivation can cause problems if you don't maintain it properly. But GM's been building these since 2015. The bugs are worked out. These engines are reliable when maintained, and the performance potential is staggering. This is factory hot rodding at its finest. It's an engine that would have been considered impossible 20 years ago. Now you can buy one on eBay and drop it in your project car. What a time to be alive. Number 1. Dodge Hellcat. 6.2-liter Hemi V8. The Hellcat engine isn't just number 1 on this list. It might be the greatest performance engine bargain in history. 707 horsepower from the factory, 717 in some applications, 797 in red-eye trim, 807 in super stock form, from the factory, with a warranty. It's absolute insanity, and somehow you can buy them used. This engine is what happens when engineers are told to build something with no compromises. The block is iron because aluminum couldn't handle the power. The pistons are forged, the rods are forged, the crank is forged. The cylinder heads are carved from solid aluminum. The supercharger is a 2.4-liter IHI unit that moves 2.8 million cubic feet of air per minute at full throttle. Everything is overbuilt, oversized, over the top. The factory calibration is actually conservative. Dodge left power on the table for reliability. A tune and pulley swap gets you 850 horsepower on pump gas. E85, 900 easy. Methanol injection, 950, bigger blower. The stock bottom end has been proven to 1,200 horsepower, repeatedly. The limit seems to be the cylinder head bolts, not the rotating assembly. Finding a Hellcat engine is easier than you think. These cars get stolen, they get wrapped around trees, they get seized by law enforcement. Complete engines show up at salvage auctions for $8,000 to $12,000, sometimes less if they have miles. Dodge also sells them as crate engines for around $20,000, which sounds expensive until you realize what you're getting. That's McLaren horsepower for Hyundai money. The engine fits in anything that'll take a modern Hemi. People have swapped them into everything. Classic Chargers, Ram trucks, Jeep Wranglers. Someone put one in a Prius as a joke. It barely fit, but it worked. The wiring is complex but documented. The aftermarket is enormous and growing. Every major performance company makes parts for these engines. The sound is absolutely biblical. At idle, it's a low rumble that shakes windows. At full throttle, it's the sound of atmospheric violence. The supercharger whine is almost turbine-like. The exhaust note is pure American thunder. It's not subtle. It's not refined. It doesn't need to be. This is an engine that exists purely to go fast and make noise. And it does both better than almost anything else. The main issues are heat and fuel consumption. These engines run hot, very hot. The factory cooling system is adequate, but just barely. Upgrade everything: radiator, intercooler, oil cooler, transmission cooler, all of it. And fuel consumption? Forget about it. Under boost, these things drink fuel like it's free. The fuel pump runs at 350 liters per hour at full throttle. You can watch the gauge drop in real time. But who cares? This is 700 plus horsepower for less than a new Civic. It's the democratization of horsepower. It's proof that the golden age of performance isn't in the past. It's right now. 20 years from now, people will look back at the Hellcat engine as the moment when crazy horsepower became accessible to everyone. And the best part? They're only going to get cheaper. And there you have it. That's 10 factory supercharged engines you can actually buy and build with today. From tiny screaming minis to earth-shaking Hellcats, there's never been a better time to go hunting for boost. Which one would you drop in your project car? Or, better yet, what did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into affordable forced induction, make sure to like and subscribe. We've got more content about forgotten performance gems coming your way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.